Okay, good morning. We're starting off with our Alpine breed. We have a single entry in our La Mancha, excuse me, our Alpine yearling milker, after I just said Alpine. Good. We see a lot of dairiness in this doe. We see good length of bone. I love her straight front legs. And we have Miss Kentucky with us here today to help us hand out some ribbons, and we appreciate that. Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause.
Winner of your yearling milker class goes to Lynn Wolf. We are now ready for our 2-year-old Alpine milkers. It looks like we have 3 entries.
These are our 2-year-old does. Our first doe is going to be our first in the mammary system. She's just really showing us more overall area of support. We see more shape to the rear udder, to the rear of the leg over our second doe. Um, and it is one of the main reasons why she's 1/2. She also has the advantage into some dairy strength. We just see some longer rear ribs, a little more length of bone than we're seeing in our second doe. Having said that, she does grant a little, uh, the doe in 2 walks a little easier around her mammary system. This doe kind of has a little bit of a hip. I don't really see it affecting her mammary system right now as they're leading around the ring. And she's showing us good elasticity in the mammary system, so it's not that she's overly full. So 1/2, 2/3, we have the advantage now in general appearance. This doe in 2 is really a general appearance doe. We see strength In front end assembly, her front legs are more correctly set underneath her withers over the doe standing behind her. She's a little straighter in the front leg than we're seeing in our third doe, and in the top line more nearly level in the chine into the loin than we're seeing in 3. Having said that, our third goat, we really see again the good length of bone on this doe, particularly the long lean neck on her. Nice group. First.
Winner of your 2-year-old Alpine class goes to Lynn Wolf. Second to Debbie Haberlin. Third to Lynn Wolf. We're now ready for our 3-year-old Alpine milkers to make it into the ring.
Our 3-year-old alpine does. We're starting off with the doe that has the advantage in general width throughout as we watch her walk through. Her general appearance and the front end assembly, we're seeing more extension to the brisket and the side profile. We see a stronger, straighter front leg than we're seeing in the doe behind her today. We see also with that extend to the brisket. We just see more body capacity, a wider doe throughout. This doe is going to be our first mammary system. She has the advantage that there's less movement in the mammary when she's on the move and a little smoother foreudder. Having said that, it's a little closer placing in that mammary system just because the shape to the rear udder on the second doe's rear that we're seeing here. And maybe she's not as full as we would like in 2/3, but certainly that overall capacity, the shape to the rear udder is a clear advantage over our third doe. And we're seeing some more body on this doe, and we see more length of rib and depth into the barrel over the black doe. We also just have a doe in her turn in the front end assembly. She's tendency to be a little sharper in the withers, tighter, less movement in the withers than we're seeing in our third doe today. The third doe over our fourth doe tends to be a little wider throughout, and we also have the advantage in general appearance. She's walking a little more correctly in the rear legs, especially the pasterns. She's walking with more width between the hocks. Having said that, the mammary system on this doe, she's also a little more fuller, more extension to the front forerunner over our fourth place doe. Having said that, when we have does in the side-by-side lineup, we do notice that this fourth doe is correct in the rear of the mammary system. The teats are nicely placed, a good strong medial suspensory ligament. Nice group.
First place for our 3-year-old goes to Kevin Kinney. Second to Lynn Wolf. Third to Lynn Wolf. I do not have any 4-year-olds showing, so we will be going to our 5-year-olds. I think these are 5-year-olds coming into the ring.
We have an interesting class of aged alpine does here. We're going with a younger doe, the 5-year-old over an 11-year-old doe. And that was kind of my flux here. My 11-year-old doe is going to be my best udder in this class. Well, maybe she doesn't have quite the teat placement that we do have in the doe standing ahead of her. She's had numerous more lactations. I do admire the feet and legs on this 11-year-old doe. I just feel that the balance we have in this younger doe, the straight front legs, she's tracking more truly forward, the shape of her body, the silhouette really, the long rear rib. She's got good general appearance, and they both have nice feet and legs on this. And it is a close placing because of that, because I do admire that the angled rear leg set we're seeing in our second doe. But the mammary system, it's still so high up into the escutcheon, and she's walking tall in the front. And when we see older animals, we really do see some of the things we keep on talking about: taller in the front, correct feet and legs, and we see all those things, and that helps with longevity in the goats, because we want to see that, because it's expensive raising goats from babies up to mature animals, and the longer you can keep them in a productive lifetime, it's certainly an advantage. She easily has the bloom in the mammary system over the doe standing directly behind her. She has more lateral attachment over this third doe also. This third doe over our fourth doe, we have the advantage here in her turn in general appearance. She's more correct in the front end assembly. She's tighter at the top of the withers. In rear leg set, she's more angled and set in the rear legs. She's a more dairy individual, being sharper in the withers. The body capacity, certainly in this fourth doe over our fifth doe, she's deeper and wider throughout. In the mammary system, both these does, our last doe is a dry doe, but our fourth doe isn't milking a lot, we see at this point in lactation, but we do notice the good division between the halves of the mammary and the correct teat placement, which is an advantage in 4 over 5. Nice group. We're ready for champion lineup.
Winner of your Alpine 5-year-old goes to Lynn Wolf, second to Caitlin Kreider. If we can have all of our first and second place does back in the ring, please. First and second place.
We have our does in line for our champion here today. We have a nice looking group of does, a well-grown yearling milker at the end here that's showing us a lot of length of leg. And just really a lot of growth and scale, yet still being feminine, and a capacious mammary system when we look at her. I think this 2-year-old doe is real competitive in this lineup. I think the only thing that's maybe holding her back is she's not walking easily around the mammary system. We have more maturity in the does ahead of her, but that strong mammary system with the height to the rear udder and capacity that we see just really looks easily like she should be up here today. And for me, it's competitive between these two does at the head of the line here today. We have a 3-year-old and we have a 5-year-old doe. if you've been watching it all, you know I like the dairy profile on this black doe. She's long and lean, beautiful levelness of top line. They both have strong top lines when we're looking at them today. But for me, it is this 3-year-old that she's just a little deeper chested. The mammary system, she's showing us a little more bloom here today than we're seeing in the doe ahead of her. So we are going to use her for our champion, but then easily the black doe for our reserve champion. And if you just stay right there a second, I am going to use that 11-year-old doe for my best udder in the Alpine breed here today. Well, I didn't think that she had quite the body to bring her to the first. I just think there are so many things that can happen to a goat in a lifetime. To have a doe that's able to fill her mammary system, be balanced between the halves, for 11-year-olds, that's pretty impressive. So she is my best udder. Congratulations.
Your champion Alpine Doe goes to the 3-year-old, reserved to our 5-year-old. We need to verify papers and tattoos, please, and then we will get into our group classes. Papers are in order, so now we will get to our group classes. Dam and Daughter is our first class. I think there are 3 entries.
This is our dam and daughter class. We have our reserve champion with her yearling daughter. Both of them were first place in their class over our best udder breed, our 11-year-old and her younger daughter that we see here. We just see more bloom in the mammary systems as a group today. Pretty similar shape to the mammary systems that we see. And I like the femininity and the dairiness that we see in 1/2. 2/3, we have the advantage here. We see that longevity in this group. We see the bloom in the mother's mammary system more so than we see in the last group. We do appreciate the width in the chest that we see in our third groups. Thank you.
In our dam and daughter class, first place goes to Lynn Wolf, second to Caitlin Kreider. We're now ready for our produce of dam class. I think there are 3 entries.
Have a competitive group of classes here. The consistency in the mammary system, we see more overall area of under support. This is a first place 2-year-old. Is one of the daughters in this group. She's really lovely when we look at her from the side. She's angled, tighter at the withers than we're seeing at the group at the second, but it's real close. I think just the capacity and the consistency and the strength of medial suspensory ligament over our second group. Our second group had our reserve champion in them. We have the advantage in dairy strength. The longer rear ribs are with this group in 2/3. I do like the general appearance that we're seeing, particularly the straight front legs.
First place for our produce of dam Alpine goes to Lynn Wolf, second to Lynn Wolf, third to Debbie Haberlin. We are now ready for our herd of Alpines. I think I have 1 entry. We'll be getting ready for our Sonnens, please. We can get those Sonnens up to ringside.
We are wrapping up the Alpine show at the Kentucky State Fair. We have a single entry in our Alpine group class. I'd like to see that we have them all here together. We had some does separate in separate group classes here today. Our reserve champion, our first place yearling milker, our first place 2-year-old is in this group, and I think that this other doe was in pretty high placing. We see good silhouettes on these does. They're sharp in the withers. They're showing us a lot of length and spring of rib. Easily a first place group. Thank you.
Winner of your herd of Alpine goes to Lynn Wolf. We're now ready to start our Sonnen yearling milkers. I think we have 2 entries.
We have a pair of Saanen yearling milkers here. They're kind of at different stages of their growth that we see here. We see both pairs have a good length of leg for their size that we're seeing. We just have a bigger frame right now, more length of body, a doe that's leveler in the top line, all the way into the rump than we're seeing in our second doe here today. And it is that length of body and the general appearance, a doe that's walking a little wider in between her hocks than we're seeing in our second doe. Having said that, we do like the width and the mammary system in our second doe, and I was comparing them for my first place udder. I'm going to leave the first place mammary system on this first doe for her advantage in medial suspensor ligament, the division between the halves. And while she's going to grant some of that width and bloom and height to the rear udder at this stage, it's a securely attached mammary system. There is lateral attachment. We see a fullness into the fore udder. And so I feel confident in having her my first udder. Thank you.
First place in your yearling milker Saanen class goes to Amy Keach. Second to Josh and Michaela Cornett. We're now ready for our 2-year-old Saanens. I believe we have 3 entries.
These are our son and 2-year-old does, a pair of does starting out the line that are showing us good general appearance and their strength of top line, and their width in the chest and walking forward. I think the second doe walks a little more truly forward in the front legs, but we have the advantage in some dairiness in this first doe, the sharper wither, the longer rear rib that we're seeing. In comparing the mammary systems, I think that they're both very, very well secured. There's no movement when they're on the move. We see more of the shape to the rear udder, to the rear of the leg on this first doe in 1/2. 2/3, her advantage is clearly in the front end assembly and general appearance. We see a doe walking more truly forward with her brisket that we're seeing. She's showing some more depth in the chest than we're seeing in our third doe. She's also having the advantage again in general appearance in that top line, more smoothly blended from the neck into the withers and into the chine, just more levelness in this doe. And to a degree, she's stronger on the rear pasterns than we're seeing in our third doe. Having said that, we have a capacious mammary system on our third doe, and I think she would really be in competition for best mammary system just for the width and the elasticity. But I felt we had an easy top in here in 1/2. Thank you.
First place in your 2-year-old Sonnen class goes to Josh and Michaela Cornett. Second to Amy Keach. Third to Josh and Michaela Cornett. We're now ready for our 3-year-old Sonnens.
We're moving up the age groups in our Sana and Doe class. This is our 3-year-old Doe. She's going to be my first place and first place mammary system. Her advantage in division between the halves of the mammary system and medial suspensor ligament, especially when you view her from the rear, you can see she may grant a slight amount of balance between the halves to the Doe standing behind her, but certainly that capacity and overall area of udder support is an advantage. Her advantage in general appearance and front end assembly, a Doe that's just a little wider in the chest, tracking more truly forward in the brisket that we're seeing here. She's a taller doe than we're seeing in our second doe. Good body capacity we see in our second doe as far as depth of chest and depth into the barrel, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
First place for your Sonnen 3-year-old milkers goes to Josh and Michaela Cornett. Second to Debbie Haberlin. We're now ready for our 4-year-old Sonnens. I believe there is a single entry.
We have a single entry in our 4-year-old Sonnen class. We can easily see the strong top line all the way into the area of the rump on this doe. I like that she's walking forward with her brisket. Nice profile. She's a first place goat.
First place 4-year-old goes to Josh and Michaela Cornett. We're now ready for our 5-year-old Sonnens. I think there are 2 entries.
Nice pair of age does we're seeing in our Sonnen breed. This is one of those cases, if we could merge the 2 goats together, we would have a near ideal goat. The second goat does have some general appearance advantages, but I think that the balance of the mammary system obviously is going to be the advantage here, and with the dairy strength that we see. We see that she's able to have this will to milk. She's balanced between the 2 halves of the mammary system, the total area of udder support in her dairy strength. We see the longer rear rib on this doe, the beautiful long lean neck. She's very angled, incurving in the thigh, walking easily around her mammary system. That easily she's going to be our first doe over our second doe. Our second doe, the good general appearance includes the strength of front end assembly. She's walking more truly forward with her brisket. She's smoother blending in the point of shoulder than we're seeing. And she's more nearly level into the rump. And we appreciate that. Nice pair.
First place in your Sonnen 5-year-old class goes to Michaela and Josh Cornett. Second place to Michaela and Josh Cornett. If we can get all my first place and second into the ring for the grand drive, please.
This is our Sanan Championship lineup. We can choose our best udder in this line when we're choosing our champion. I think all these first place does were our first mammary systems. Real pretty group of does. Our yearling milker, certainly a long limbed doe. Look at, she's going to be taller than our 2-year-old. And she is already when we look at her. I love the length of limbs that we see in here today. Structurally good mammary system. And we'll look forward to seeing her in the future. Our 2-year-old doe, the strong general appearance, one of the strongest in this lineup with a balance between dairy strength with a sharper wither and the length of top line we see here today. Our 3-year-old doe, we see the good angle and set to the rear legs, the balance in the mammary system, a third behind the leg and a third in front of the leg on this doe. And I appreciate her proportionally length of body. We had a single entry in our 4-year-old doe. We're seeing good body capacity, maybe not quite the bloom in the mammary system as some of the does in the line here today, but certainly I love the width throughout and as she's leading around the ring. And we have our doe at the head of the line, a 5-year-old doe. She's maybe not as good in the structure as some of the other does in the lineup, but with that mammary system, that overall area of support, the width in the mammary, she is our champion and our best udder here today. Congratulations. We're looking for a reserve, and I really thought that I really kind of looked that when they were in the class, I think that this second place doe is a strong contender in this lineup here today. She's got good division between the halves, but I'm going to come down to this 3-year-old doe for my reserve. I just think that the younger doe is showing us more bloom in the mammary system. She's more feminine than the doe ahead of her today, and just really a strong young doe. She's my reserve. Congratulations.
As we're verifying tattoos and paperwork, we need to get group classes together for the Sonnen. I've been told we've got Dam and Daughter and Herd.
Okay, we have a single entry in our dam and daughter, and we can see it must be the 5-year-old champion of the day is our dam because the other doe is younger. So a real attractive look at the same rump that we have, the width and square rump is in the mother and in the daughter. Appreciate it. Nice group.
First place for your Dam and Daughter in the Sonnen class goes to Josh Michaela Cornett. We're now ready for our Herd of Sonnen.
Okay, we're bringing in 4 goats, and they're going to consist of one group for this class here. What a strong group of does here. We're seeing a lot of dairy strength, length of bone pattern, good division between the halves of the mammary system, and a lot of milk here. So they're going to be our first place Sonnen group in the dairy herd today. Thank you.
First place for your Sonnen herd goes to Josh and Michaela Cornett. We are now ready for our La Manchas. I do not show a yearling milker, so we need those 2-year-old La Mancha milkers to the ring, please. We're needing our 2-year-old La Manchas to the ring, please. There's only 2 in the class. And then we'll be needing our 3-year-olds to the makeup.
Starting a La Mancha breed with 2-year-old does. A nice pair of does. They're both first freshening does. The advantage in general appearance in this first doe, we have an advantage in rear leg set. She's more angled and showing us more width in between the hocks when she's on the move. Inside profile, we see an advantage in the front end assembly. Just a tighter elbow, more extension of the brisket in the side that we're seeing. In the mammary system, it's a little closer placing here. I like the division between the halves of the mammary system and our second doe, but the width in the mammary system is clearly with our first doe. She's our first udder. Thank you.
First place in your 2-year-old La Mancha goes to Rodney Danowski. Second to John Green. We're now ready for our 3-year-old La Manchas.
Okay, what a nice looking group of 3-year-old La Mancha does here. The first doe I'm finding is the best balance throughout here. We have uh, this large doe in second is kind of a kicker in this class. She's so nicely grown and wide throughout and a well attached mammary system. I think that I just like to see her a little leaner and cleaner. And so the first doe is going to be first in the mammary also. She's just thinner in the thigh. The mammaries has a little bit more room up in the escutcheon and a slightly more balance between the halves and the mammary over our second doe here today. And in her turn, she's got a lot of attachment. The biggest difference between them, where if we're going to say that she's better in the mammary, is the dairy strength. Obviously, just she's sharper in the withers, a little leaner and cleaner throughout here today. Originally, I thought I was going to put this big doe in third place, to tell you the truth, but I just can't with the lateral attachment in the mammary system. The mammary is right underneath the rump, like it should be. We're seeing more of the rear udder to the than we're seeing in the doe standing behind her. The teats are near ideal placement on this doe here today, and she's going to grant, again, a little bit leaner and cleaner, a sharper with her doe behind her today. Really an interesting group of 3-year-old does. Thank you.
We have no 4 or 5-year-old does, so I need all first and second place in our two classes back in the ring. All right, exhibitors, we have no AOP, so we will be moving directly into our Nigerian dwarfs. I have no group classes for the La Mancha, so when we get these crowned grand and reserve and verified, we will move directly into Nigerians.
Okay, kind of a small but mighty group of La Manchas here. Attractive mammary systems on both sides of the line here today. We have a pair of 2-year-olds. I appreciate that structure to the mammary system, mammaries that are nice and wide and good teat delineation and placement when we look at the both of them here today. And I like the long top line we see on that 2-year-old doe. And we have a pair of 3-year-old does here that are showing us another freshening on this group, then we're looking at them. For me, it is these 3-year-old does that are going to be my champion and reserve champion here today. We'll look forward to seeing the younger doe in the future, but I just feel that the little stronger pasterns are in this first doe here. She is also going to be my best hutter for the advantage in another freshening and more overall area of support and capacity in her today. Just as long and beautiful in the top line as the younger doe, more depth of body, more she's our reserve.
We're now ready to start our Nigerian dwarf class. We have a yearling milker class. Milkers coming in. I think there's only one entry.
We're moving on to our Nigerian dwarf breed here. We see a yearling milker that's showing us a lot of lateral attachment when we view her from the side. I really admire her angled rear leg set, really helps her walk easily around the mammary system. She's a first place doe and our first place yearling milking mammary system. Thank you.
First place in your yearling milker Nigerian dwarf goes to Mark Ware. We are now ready for our 2-year-old Nigerian dwarf milkers.
Okay, we have a nice pair of, I think these are our 2-year-old does in the lineup, in the close placing in the mammary system. But really, when we look at the overall area of support, it's a clear advantage in our doe and one. But I do like the dairy strength we're seeing in our second doe, loose, pliable skin when we put our hands on her. And there's a little more elasticity to the mammary system in our second doe. But we see in our first doe, we see that length of rear rib, we see a doe that's sharper in the withers. In general appearance, a doe that's more level in the top line, particularly in the chine, over our second doe today. 2/3 is her advantage in the dairy strength, the longer, leaner neck, a little leaner and cleaner throughout. The advantage in the mammary system, more capacious mammary system, more depth to the mammary over our third doe. 3/4, her advantage, and she's a wider doe throughout. She's got her advantage in general appearance and feet and legs. She's more angled in her rear leg set, walking with more width between the hocks. In the mammary system, we're seeing a little more bloom in the mammary system over our fourth place doe. This brown doe, I do like her depth of chest.
First place for your Nigerian Dwarf 2-year-old goes to Mark Ware. Second to Jalen Wheeler. Third to Montana Fed. We're now ready for our 3-year-old Nigerian milkers. I think there are 3 entries.
These are our 3-year-old Nigerian dwarf does. Pretty group of does. There, I see a lot of femininity all the way through the line, which I really appreciate. An angled rear leg set. The mammary system clearly an advantage in 1/2. The lateral attachment, we have a fuller forerudder. A little more height to the rear udder than we're seeing in our second doe. And dairy strength, she's a little leaner and cleaner throughout with a lot of length of rear rib on this doe in 1/2. In general appearance, a straighter front leg tracking more truly forward than we're seeing in 2. 2/3, a lot of body on this second doe over our third doe. We're seeing deeper chest. We're seeing more depth into the barrel than we're seeing in our third doe. We also have the advantage in the mammary system right now, a little tighter forerudder than we're seeing in the last doe here today. I do like the femininity, and she might grant some of that dairy strength, just being a little leaner and cleaner and sharper in the wither. And I appreciate how uphill she is. A nice, strong class.
First place in your 3-year-old Nigerian dwarf goes to Mark Ware. Second to Montana Fed. Third to Jalen Wheeler. We are now ready for our 4-year-old Nigerian milkers.
These are our 4-year-old Nigerian dwarf does. A nice pair of does to start this class. Our first doe is going to be the first mammary system just because the width in the mammary system here today. It is closer. I think that we have a little more elasticity in the mammary system in our second doe, but we just have a doe in general appearance that's more correct on her front legs. She's taller on the front pasterns, tracking more truly forward than we're seeing in the doe standing behind her today. Just all her parts moving together. She's blending more smoothly from the neck into the top of the shoulders and across the top line than the doe standing behind her. But a real pretty pair of does to start out. The second doe over our third doe. Obviously, the mammary system advantage, the shape of the rear udder to the rear of the leg, the capacity and a little more depth of mammary over our third place doe. Our third place doe over our fourth place doe, the bloom in the mammary system. Again, the rear of the mammary, we see more of capacity than we see in the doe standing behind her. She's also showing an advantage in dairy strength, being sharper in the wither and taller in the front than we're seeing in the two-tone doe. The two-tone doe over the brown doe, closer placing. The advantage of the mammary system is the stronger medial suspensory ligament, the division between the halves over the doe standing at the end. In general appearance, she's smoother blending in the top line than we're seeing in the brown doe. The brown doe does have good length of rear rib, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
First place goes to Mark Ware, second to Jalen Wheeler, third to Jalen Wheeler.
Okay, we have our age does and our Nigerian dwarf breed. What a pretty group of does. All the way through the line, we see some strengths in this class. Our first doe has got the best balance between the halves of the mammary system, shape to the mammary system and capacity, near plumb teats when we look at her from the rear, and particularly general appearance. You know, the two high point categories, the mammary system and body and general appearance of mammary system This doe has at the straighter front legs when viewed from the side, more width between the hocks. 2/3. The third doe was our 9-year-old doe. Um, she doesn't have quite the capacity in the mammary system to move her up, but certainly the structure to the mammary. We have more bloom in the mammary system in this doe standing ahead of her today, more lateral attachment and capacity here today. She will grant to the balance between the halves of the mammary system to our third doe. 3/4. The older doe in the line here today, we see the depth of chest, the extension of the brisket when we view her today, just a deeper body doe today that's had more freshenings than we're seeing in our fourth doe. Our 4 doe over our 5 doe, the bloom in the mammary system, near ideal teat placement when viewed from the rear. On the side, we see a third behind the leg and a third in front of the leg, a smoother blending doe in the front of the shoulders than we're seeing in the black and white doe. The black and white doe is a more feminine doe, more open in the ribbing and sharper in the withers than we're seeing in the deep-bodied red doe today.
Winner of your 5-year-old class goes to Mark Ware. Second to Jalen Wheeler. We now need all of our first and second places back in, please. First and second places for our champion Nigerian.
Okay, this is our lineup for our senior champion in our Nigerian dwarf breed. What a pretty group of does. We have our yearling milker that's got the correct rear leg set. She's walking wide around her mammary system, walking straight on all of her feet and legs. That 2-year-old doe, I think she's real competitive in this lineup. I love the length of rear rib. She's real angular looking. When I came up from behind her, that rear with the mammary system is so nice and wide. And yet she's feminine, longer neck than the doe standing ahead of her, but certainly beautiful profile, the strength of front chest, front end assembly on this 3-year-old doe, the nice straight front legs on this doe. Another wide mammary system in our 4-year-old doe. I love the length of top line that we see in her today. And we have an aged 5-year-old doe at the top of the line. Beautiful square leg set on this doe. Maybe not the super height as some of the other does in the line, but she's been milking a lot longer. She's got the seniority here, and she is our senior champion here at the show here today. So congratulations to this doe, the good general appearance, the square leg set, taller rear pasterns, front pasterns, and the doe standing directly behind her. So now it's like really is the hard choice here. We have our second 5-year-old doe, and just real, what a feminine doe and real attractive. But the thing is, she's not as balanced between the halves of the mammary as we're seeing in some of the other does. So when I compare her to the other doe, I think she's more elasticity to the mammary system and the doe behind her. Maybe maybe she's a little stronger in the rear leg set. The real competitive now placement is between her and the 2-year-old doe for me here today. And it is a 2-year-old second freshening when I look at them here today. And while I'm put, I even went through a scenario in my head where I would make the 2-year-old my champion, and I just think I couldn't with the 5-year-old maturity. I am going to stay in that 5-year-old class for my reserve champion. I just think she's so feminine. Really, I can't really justify putting a 2-year-old doe right now when we have such an attractive pair of older does. She's my reserve. Thank you.
Your champion doe comes out of the 5-year-old class, Mark Ware. Your reserve champion also comes out of the 5-year-old class, Jalen Wheeler. Once we verify tattoos and confirm animals, we will do our group classes. Our first group will be Dam and Daughter. As we're doing group classes, please bring those Nubians up to ringside. Tattoos and papers have matched, so we will get started with our group classes. We need those dam and daughters. I think I have two.
Okay, we're going to leave this class the way they came into the ring. It is a close placing in 1/2. We have good structure on both of these does. I like the strong top line on our second group, but our first group has got a 9-year-old and her 2-year-old daughter. Similar shape of mammary systems. They're high above the hocks. They're going to be 1 and 2 today. Thank you.
First place in our dam and daughter goes to Jalen Wheeler. Second to Montana Fed. We are now ready for our Get of Sire group. I think we have 3 entries.
This is a Get a Sire class. We have 2 dams represented in this group over 3 dams, but we do like the overall bloom in the mammary systems that we're seeing in this first group, the square leg set, um, the fullness into the forerunner that we're seeing in 1/2. 2/3 now we have the advantage in consistency. We just have this long top line showing us into the length of the rumps. We have does that have tendency to be wider in between the hocks when they're on the move over a group of feminine groups that are showing us long, lean necks. Nice groups.
First place for your get of sire goes to Mark Ware. Second to Jalen Wheeler. Third to Jalen Wheeler. We are now ready for our produce of dam. I think there are 4 entries for that class.
This is our produce of dam class, 2 does out of the same mother. We're starting off with our group that has our champion of the day in there with her sister. The overall area of udder support, a little more capacity in the mammary system over the group and standing in 2. I love the moderate size in this second group, as well as the dairy strength that we're seeing, the long lean neck being a little leaner and cleaner throughout over our third place group. Our third place group over our fourth place group, just the consistency. They're just really walking forward with their brisket, showing us a lot of depth of body and spring of rib over our group standing in 4. Just been a real quality show of Nigerian dwarf does here, and we do appreciate the angled rear leg set, just the femininity that we're seeing in 4 today. Thank you.
First place in your produce of dam class goes to Mark Ware. Second to Jalen Wheeler. We are now ready for our herd class, herd of Nigerians. There are 2 entries.
This is our last class for the Nigerian breeders. If there was an audience, I think we should clap for them, but if we don't. I'm clapping. Yes, really a pretty Nigerian dwarf show. We see does that are good in structure and general appearance. We see strong mammary systems with desirable teat placement and capacity in the mammary system. We're going to leave them in line 1, 2, and 3 in the line here today. The bloom in the mammary system, the consistency across the board in 1/2. 2/3, the stronger mammary systems as a group. I just like the width in the mammary system. We have a beautiful shape to the rear udder when viewed from the rear. Does that are consistently feminine. We do have a 9-year-old doe, and so we see some age and some longevity in our third group, which I really admire, but really not a bad goat in the line here today. Really pretty girls. Thank you.
First place in your herd goes to Mark Ware, second to Jalen Wheeler, third to Jalen Wheeler. That concludes our Nigerian show. We are now ready to start with our yearling milker Nubians. Yearling milker Nubians. I think we have 2 entries.
Our first doe is going to be our first in the mammary system here today. She's just showing us a stronger medial suspensory ligament, a division between the halves, a little more shape to the rear udder today with capacity higher into the escutcheon than we're seeing in our second doe. She's also showing an advantage in general appearance, being stronger in the top line, particularly in the chine. We're seeing more depth of body in her today over our second doe. It's a little closer placing. I do like the angled rear legs that we're seeing in our second doe. They both need to grow up to see how things are going to go, but as yearling milkers, they're showing us some good length of bone together. Thank you.
First place in your yearling milker goes to Lisa Light, second to Adam Light. We are now ready for 2-year-old Nubian milkers. I believe we have 6 entries in the class.
Hey, these are our 2-year-old Nigerian Nubians. These are Nubian does with the beautiful floppy ears that we see. The frame on this first goat, she's a second freshening doe. All the rest of the does are first freshening does. We see a little bit more maturity, but we see that body capacity, the depth, the width throughout, stronger top line. Both these does have nice top lines, just the more length of top line we're seeing in our first doe over our second doe. I am making our second doe my first mammary system just because the teats are more properly placed at the base of the udder. She's higher and wider into the escutcheon, the mammary, than we're seeing in our second doe here today. It is closed because we do like the capacity in the mammary system on the second freshening doe here today. 2/3 it is because of that mammary system. I kind of thought I was going to place this belted doe in my second place, but when I started really looking at the mammary system, I think the advantage in the mammary, as well as some of the feet and the legs, she's just a little more square leg set, a little straighter in the front leg when viewed from the side over the deeper body doe standing in 3. This third doe over our fourth doe, we have the advantage here in her turn in general appearance. We see a doe that's longer top line, more level in the rump from hooks to pins when viewed from the side. She's a doe that's walking wider in between the hocks than we see in our fourth place doe. 4/5, her width in the chest, the extension of the brisket in the chest that we're seeing in the spotted doe. The spotted doe, the tremendous length of body that we see, and an advantage in the mammary system with the division between the halves of the mammary, teats a little more properly placed at the base of the mammary system over our sixth place doe. Our sixth place doe, nice straight front legs on this doe.
First place in your 2-year-old milker goes to Penny Highbarger, second to Lisa Light, third to Adam Light. We're now ready for our 3-year-old milker class. It looks like there's a single entry.
We have a single entry in our Nubian 3-year-old class. We see a doe that's walking uh, forward with her brisket when she's on the move. She's tall in the front, showing us good length of rump. She's showing us a capacious mammary system with some good width in the rear. She's a first place goat.
First place 3-year-old Nubian goes to Lisa Light. We're now ready for our 4-year-old Nubians. There are 3 entries. Just a heads up, folks. Once we get through with the Nubians, we only have a 5-year-old class and then groups. We'll be following into the Toggenburgs. We only have one milking Toggenburg, so those recorded grades should be getting ready.
So these are our 4-year-old Nubian does here. This first doe will have to grant some length of bone and length of body to the doe standing behind her, but the more balanced mammary system, more capacity in the rear udder is going to be the advantage in this first doe. In general appearance, we see an advantage in just more correct rear leg set. She's a little bit more angled in her rear leg set than we're seeing in the doe behind her. In dairy strength, we just see the real long rear rib on this doe. She looks so angular. Beautiful profile on this doe. We're going to go 1 and 2.
First place in your 4-year-old goes to Lisa Light. Second to Lisa Light. We are now ready for our 5-year-old and over Nubian milkers. I believe there are 2 entries.
Okay, we have our aged Nubian does. We have a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old doe. This 5-year-old doe, quite handily, is taller in the front end than we're seeing in the doe standing behind her. We're seeing a little more bloom in the mammary system. Teats more properly plumb at the base of the udder. We're going to give her our first mammary system over our second doe here today. A nice pair of does. I appreciate the length of rear rib we're seeing on the black doe. Just the stretch on this first doe is going to be enough of an advantage with that mammary system in 1 over 2.
First place 5-year-old goes to Lisa Light. Second to Lisa Light. We now need all of our first and second place winners into the ring for Grand Champion Nubian.
This is the lineup for our grand champion Nubian doe here today. A pretty group of does in the line here today. Attractive yearling milker that's showing us good length of leg. The 2-year-old doe, proportionally long top line on this doe. Our 3-year-old doe, strong mammary system, nice balance to this doe. We have a 4-year-old doe that's showing us some, again, a tall doe in the front. She's walking forward with her brisket. And we have an aged doe that's showing us good shape to the mammary system, to the rear of the leg on this doe, and nice straight front legs. For me, its competition is between this 3-year-old doe and the 5-year-old doe in the line here today. We're going to use the 3-year-old doe for our senior champion. She's also going to be my best mammary system here in the lineup. I think our second place 2-year-old doe was our first mammary. I kind of looked at all of those and considered, so she is my champion and my best mammary, and our age doe is going to be our reserve champion here today. Her age and maturity and shape to the rear udder, to the rear of the leg is giving her the advantage over the other does. Thank you.
All right, that concludes our Nubian. We're now ready for our group classes. First is a Get of Sire.
We are looking at our Get of Sire class for a Nubian breed. Look at how long bodied each and every one of these does are. Really consistent that way, their first place group.
First place Get of Sire goes to Lisa Light. We're now ready for our Produce of Dam class.
Okay, we have a pair of does that were twins when they were born. I like the one on my right a little bit better than the other one, but we notice the length of rump on these does. Pretty good breed character with the beautiful pendulous ears. They're a first place group.
First place for your Produce of Dam class goes to Lisa Light. We're now ready for our herd. I believe there are two herds.
Okay, in this group class, we have our champion of the day. However, I'm going to use the brown group over the next group here today. Just the consistency in this group here. I like two of the does a little better over here. They're more the mature does over the younger does, but certainly the nice arch to the rear mammary system, the good consistency across the board over our group and two. And again, some of the older does are champion of the day. Obviously, I like this doe, the square leg set. Overall, a nice Nubian show. Thank you, exhibitors.
First place in their herd goes to Lisa Light. Second to Lisa Light. We're now ready for her Toggenburg show. Sadly, we only have a single entry in the show. She's a 5-year-old doe. We will have no group classes, so we'll be starting into our recorded grade. I see no yearling milkers, so we'll start with the 2-year-olds.
Okay, we only have a single entry Toggenburg doe in the show here today. She's a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 5-year-old doe. We see some good length of ribbing, spring of rib, well attached mammary system. She's going to be a first place mammary system and our best udder for the breed. And she's also going to be first place in her class and our grand champion for the breed. So we're going to check her tattoos and we'll come back to the show. So congratulations and thank you for bringing a Tog to the show today.
Winner of your Toggenburg show, once verified, is the Josh and Michaela Cornett.
we're moving on to our recorded grade does. Here we have, that's why it looks like we have different breeds in the lineup. A couple La Manchas and a couple Alpine types when we're looking here. The advantage in general appearance in this first doe, she's more correct on her front legs. She's taller on her front pasterns, walking more truly forward on her front legs over our second doe. In the mammary system, she is going to be the first place mammary system with a lateral attachment. The placement of the mammary system under the rump is just real direct, but the balance of a third behind the leg and a third in front of the leg, certainly an advantage in 1/2. 2/3, the width in the mammary system. She's a second freshener. You can start seeing some more development in that mammary system with that width. We also have the advantage in the general appearance and front end assembly. She's walking more truly forward with her brisket when she's on the move here. Just a real feminine doe over in 1/2, but still showing us some strength. The second doe over our, this third doe over our fourth doe, her advantage is in the mammary system. Really, we'd like to see more of it, but I tell you what, when we really look at it, she's more delineated in the teeth. She's fuller into the fore udder that we see. It's just really an attractive. These are first freshening does, and that was one of the main reasons in 3/4, and also just a deeper body doe. She's deeper in the heart and deeper into the barrel over the last doe, who in her own right is showing us some good width in the mammary system. They're just first fresheners, like to see some more bloom in them to move up.
First place in your 2-year-old milker recorded grade goes to Kevin Kinney. Second to Debbie Haberlin. Third to Caitlin Kreider. We are now ready for our 3-year-old recorded grade milkers. I believe we have 4 entries.
pretty handy first place class winner in this 3-year-old doe. When we look at this doe, the first place mammary system, the width in the mammary system, and coupled with that in general appearance, just that wide rump. That is tremendously width in the rump. She's more level in the top line, stronger in the front end assembly over there. Our second doe also is being tighter at the point of elbow, and with that width throughout over two. 2/3, probably my closest placing in the class here today. I appreciate how my second doe is walking so uphill, and I like the division between the halves of her mammary system. Having said that, I decided that, however, our second doe was going to be my first mammary just for the shape to the rear udder, to the rear of the leg, and the balance between the halves. It's a close placing because there are some trade-offs. The straighter front leg is with our third doe. The doe here, the mammary, she adds up quite a few points. She's smoother blending down from the neck into the top of the shoulders over the black doe behind her. But a nice pair of does in the middle of the class here today. And easily now the wider doe, a doe that's walking more forward with her brisket, that stronger mammary system easily divided between the halves and the width is over our fourth place doe. Thank you.
First place in your 3-year-old recorded grade milker goes to Kevin Kinney, second to Caitlin Kreider, third to Debbie Haberlin.
Our 4-year-old recorded grade does here, a pair of La Mancha does. The advantage in general appearance on this first doe in the front end assembly, she's tighter at the top of the shoulders with less movement in the shoulders than we're seeing in our second doe here today. The advantage in the mammary system, she's a little tighter, more fuller into the forudder than we're seeing in our second doe, more delineation to her teats, a little more shape to the rear udder, to the rear of the leg. Having said that, the beautiful length of bone that we're seeing in our second doe, a nice pair. Thank you.
First place 4-year-old recorded grade goes to Caitlin Kreider, second place to Caitlin Kreider. We're now ready for our 5-year-old and older milker recorded grades. I believe we have 5 entries.
Okay, pretty handy first place doe. I think she's a 6-year-old over a 5-year-old standing behind her. The correct general appearance and feet and legs. She walks wider in between the hocks. She's taller on the rear pasterns, coupled with the structure of her mammary system, the fuller fore udder, the higher rear udder on this doe. 2/3, her advantage in the mammary system, the height to the rear udder, the balance between the halves of the mammary, more delineation to her teats. A closer placing, a little straighter front legs also in over 2/3. 3/4, her body capacity, a doe that's taller in the front. She's wider in the chest than we're seeing in the doe standing directly behind her. She may grant some of that elasticity to the mammary system we're seeing and depth of mammary, but this long body doe that's all her parts moving together, she's wider. And then we have another 5-year-old doe, and she's going to be standing over a 9-year-old doe. Just the bloom in the mammary system that we see here today, the overall area of udder support, little stronger fore udder, more delineated teats over the 9-year-old doe. Just really impressive to see. She's showing us she's a healthy, lively doe that we're seeing in our 9-year-old doe, and we do appreciate that. Thank you.
First place goes to Amy Keach, second to Caitlin Kreider, third to Amy Keach. That is our classes. We need all of our first and second places in the ring, please. All first and second back to ringside.
Okay, I could make you guys walk, and maybe I should, but I kind of have an idea where I'm going to go with this here. Real pretty group of does on either side of the line here today. Attractive mammary system on our 2-year-old doe. I like the length of body and even the length of attachments we see, kind of really beautiful balance to this doe. Our 3-year-old doe, we're seeing some refinement and dairiness in this doe. When we view our mammary system from the rear, we see the width in the mammary and the nice teat placement. I admire her angled rear leg set and straight front legs. So real competitive in the lineup, these young 2 does. And then we have our 4-year-old doe. We see how elegant she is with her long, lean neck and loose, pliable skin and the shape to the rear udder. For me, it's this doe at the head of the line that's going to be my senior champion today. She's a 6-year-old doe. We're seeing the good shape to the rear udder, to the rear of the leg. She's still angled in her rear leg set. She's got the maturity advantage, the length of rear rib and spring of rib. Just a nice doe for our champion here today. We have a second place doe that stood behind her, not quite the strength of pasterns that we saw on the age doe. For now, I'm looking in between the 2 younger does in the line. I think the more angled rear leg set is with the 3-year-old doe, but I this 2-year-old can't be denied. She's my reserve today. Just a beautiful mammary system on that doe, the lateral attachment that we see. We are going to have our champion be our best udder for that maturity advantage that we see here. And certainly it's the mammary system that's not moving when she's on the move. We can watch her walk back and we'll check some tattoos, but thank you, and we'll do some group classes.
As we verify tattoos, we'll be getting ready for our group classes in the recorded grade. First up will be Dam and Daughter. There's 2 entries. Then we'll be getting our sables ready to come to ringside, please. Champion of your recorded grade goes to Amy Keach, reserved to Kevin Kinney. We're now ready for our group classes of recorded grades. Dam and Daughter is our first class.
This is uniquely, we have the mother in the middle and 2 daughters on either side. We are going with the black does first and the black and red does second when we look at them today. Just more consistency in the mammary system. I appreciate that both the daughters are stronger on their feet, rear pasterns than the middle doe. Thank you.
Winner of the class goes to Caitlin Kreider. Second to Caitlin Kreider. We're now ready for Get of Sire.
Sire, we're going to use the group in front of me and the group second. Just the advantage in general appearance, the stronger pasterns as a group over our second place group. We also have the advantage in the wide flat rumps as a group uniformly, more spring of rib and depth into the barrel, 1 and 2.
In your recorded grade Get of Sire classes, first to Caitlin Kreider, second to Caitlin Kreider. We're now ready for our Produce of Dam class.
This is our Produce of Dam class. We always ask how many sires are represented in the class, and actually, the two first place class winners, they're the same mother and father in both of the classes. But you can't deny something good that's happening. I would breed it again myself. But the real desirable rear leg set. The straighter front legs are with this first group and over our second group. The mammary systems, the width throughout and the width into the forudder. The stronger pasterns are in their turn with this group in 3 and 3/4. Their body capacity, their shape of their bodies, the length of rear rib is a clear advantage over the long-legged alpine sort of Oberhasli type does in 4.
First place in the produce class goes to Amy Keach, second to Caitlin Kreider. We're now ready for our herd of recorded grades. I think there are 2 entries.
Hey, this is our last class of recorded grade does. It looks like we have exhibitors helping here, each groups, or they're related to each other. We're going to stick with the Lamanches for our overall best recorded grade herd. Just their consistency and length of rear rib and spring of rib, a little wider does in the front end as a group than we're seeing in the long-legged group in second. Thank you, recorded grade breeders.
That concludes our recorded grade class with our herds. First place to Caitlin Kreider, second to Caitlin Kreider. We're now ready to start our sable show. This is the first year we've had sables sanctioned down here at the Kentucky State Fair. So we will get those started with our yearling milker sables.
Okay, close placing between our top 2 does. We have the longer body in our second doe, but the advantage in the mammary system and the height to the rear udder. A little fuller, smoother blending fore udder in this doe. Since she's my first udder, that gives her a lot of points, and she's a little straighter in the front leg and taller on the rear pasterns. And so she'll grant the length of body to the second doe. 2/3. We have more bloom in the mammary system here today. We have a dry doe, and we do appreciate her depth of body, but the length of body and the width in the mammary system now is a clear advantage in 2/3.
First place in your sable division is Debbie Haberlin. Second is Amanda Long. We're now ready for our 2-year-old sable milkers. Looks like we have 4 of those.
Okay, nice pair of does to start the class off with. They are a close pair in this placing. We are going to make this first doe my first mammary system. She's just a little, why she's not maybe as high in the rear udder, the teat placement, the fuller fore udder in this doe. In general appearance, well, I'd like to change the pasterns on both of them, the rear pasterns especially. I think a little more angle set to the rear legs on this first doe over our 2. In dairy strength, we see longer ribbing, giving her more angles than we're seeing in our doe. And 2, the easy advantage in general appearance and the stronger top line of doe that's walking more uphill than we're seeing in our 3rd doe. This doe has been milking through from last year. She's showing us more bloom in the mammary system and more width throughout over our 4th place doe.
First place in your 2-year-old class goes to Amanda Long. Second to Debbie Haberlin.
Okay, these are our 3-year-old sable sonnets. We are starting off with our first doe. Our first doe is going to be our first mammary system, although she's going to grant a little bit of the division between the halves and the medial suspensory ligament to the doe standing behind her. But the depth of mammary system, the capacity, the shape to the rear of the mammary, we're just seeing an advantage over our second doe. General appearance is where we really get on this doe. We just have a longer bone pattern doe, just a bigger doe today. The longer top line, sharper withers on this doe, an advantage over our second doe. 2/3, we have the advantage here. A doe that's smaller but more level in the top line, especially in the chine, than the doe standing directly behind her. She's more balanced between the halves of the mammary system, and there's less movement in the mammary when she's on the move over the long bone pattern doe here today. Really not a bad one in the bunch when we look at them. We see good width in the mammary system in our third doe, and I like her clean legged, and she's even stronger in the pasterns than the does ahead of her. So nice group.
First place in your 3-year-old sable group goes to Debbie Haberlin, second to Amy Keach. We're now ready for our 4-year-old milkers. I believe we have one.
We have a single entry 4-year-old doe, a nice square leg set on this doe. She's walking forward with her brisket. She's going to be my first udder, but really the outstanding part of this goat, while she's nice square leg set, is I love the width and flatness of rump that we see on her today. She's a first place goat.
First place in our 4-year-old class goes to Amanda Long. We're now ready for our 5-year-old sable milkers.
Okay, we have a dry doe in this lineup. She's an aged doe, a 5-year-old doe. She's due to have her babies later this summer here, late in the fall, early in the fall. We have a nice strong top line on this doe, beautiful profile and general appearance on her. She will be our first mammary system. It's like elastic, and we feel nothing weird about it. So she will also be the first udder in this class. You can just stay right there unless you got somebody else. Okay, first and second class winners, please. Okay, this is our lineup for our Sable Champion. A pretty group of does. We have our older does at the head of the line, our 5-year-old and a 4-year-old doe. Um, no, we can't really see evidence of milking right now in the older doe because she's a dry doe, but we can see she's starting to spring and really starting to get a big barrel to have babies pretty soon. We have a doe here that's deep bodied in our 4-year-old doe, maybe not as tall in the front as we're seeing in the others. Our yearling milker, we're seeing a good length of leg on her and a strong mammary system, just not much of it here today. For me, it is between the 2-year-old and the 3-year-old doe for my senior champion. This 2-year-old doe has good balance in the mammary system. We see the fullness into the forerunner, the shape to the rear udder in the line. But today, that's showing the bloom, the balance together is this 3-year-old doe. She's my senior champion here today. She's going to be the best udder also. There are some others that are a little prettier in the mammary, a little more delineation of teats, but that's, I always, if I have a question of how I'm judging or a competition between two, I always remember that they're dairy goats. And this goat is more dairy. We're seeing more evidence of productivity. Certainly, you're our champion here today. We'll pull her out. No, it's a close competition for my reserve. If it was when I was looking at the 2 and the 3-year-old, when we're looking at them today, I think we've got a good balance in this 3-year-old doe. But I'm going to come down to this 2-year-old for my reserve. Just the length of bone pattern that we're seeing. Just seeing the she's maybe not as full in the rear as we're seeing in the doe behind her, but in the side profile, this length of bone pattern, she's a bigger doe. She's my reserve. Okay, we're bringing in our sable herd class. We see does that are consistently showing us a good length of bone pattern, length of rear rib. We have some good elasticity in the mammary systems. They're going to be a first place group. We're going to let them milk out, and we're going to do best in show and best udder in show in just a few minutes.
We're taking a short break to get this ROA paperwork signed. Judge is going to take a restroom break, and then we are going to start our best doe and show, best udder. So if you have not signed the paperwork, please come up and do so.
Or you want me to sign this? No.
Just a reminder, dairy goat exhibitors, once again, if you have not signed this ROA up at the table, if you had a grand or reserve, please come up and do so. That's going to be done before we bring in our best doe and show. Also, exhibitors, tomorrow at 12:30, there will be a costume contest in this ring. A costume contest, ages young to the old timer class. So if you will sign up, it is right outside the Dairy Goat office. We'll get you in the show tomorrow. Could I get Mark Ware to come back to the announcer stand, please? Mark Ware to the announcer stand. Attention dairy goat exhibitors, if you had a breed champion today and they're milked out, please bring them to ringside. We'll get ready for our best senior doe and show and best udder. Once again, if you've got those milked out, please come to ringside and get those in line. All right, dairy goat exhibitors, if we can be making our way back to ring with our breed champions and our best udder breeds, we will get those into the ring and we will get started with our best in show. Attention, ladies and gentlemen. What we've got in the ring now is our breed champions from the show this morning. They're representing their breed character. The udders they've been milked out because they've been milked all day. So we're looking at them milked out. These are your breed champions, and our judge is picking our best doe in show.
Okay, congratulations to all these does. They've been the champion of each of their division. With our Alpine doe, we have a beautiful, we have good structure to this doe, a strong top line, straight front legs on her doe, coupled with a lot of capacity in the mammary system and well-attached mammary, and even milked out, we can still see those solid attachments. Sanando that was showing us a lot of milk. She's got a lot of length of bone pattern when we look at her. I like her angled rear leg set to help her walk around the mammary system quite a bit. A 3-year-old La Mancha doe, she's sharp in the withers, showing us some good dairiness, a lot of length of bone pattern with her today. We have a Nigerian dwarf doe. She's an older doe. She's a good square-legged doe. She's walking forward with her brisket, a really wide mammary system that was held high above the hocks. A Nubian doe that we see. She's a 3-year-old doe that had a wide mammary system. I love her head and breed type. She's long-necked. A single entry Toggenburg doe, but she's an older doe, and we really see the depth of heart, depth into the barrel. We have a recorded grade. We look at her and we see she's tight at the point of elbow, sharp in the withers, and strong in the top line. And our last breed that we judged was our Sable Sonnets, and certainly a doe that really deserves to stand in this line up here today. She's walking uphill. She's deep in the heart. For me, we have a couple of does I think that are close in placing for our best in show. Sometimes I'd like to separate, if I could, the best udder and the best doe in show. I'm not sure I'm going to do that today because they're so close. I think that this recorded grade Sonnet type doe is real competitive in this line. I think she's an older doe. She's so correct in her rear leg set. She had a solid mammary system on this doe. Our Alpine doe at the head of the line, just all her parts moving together, but she's relatively young in the line. For me, it is this doe in the center of the line, the Nigerian dwarf, that's going to be our best in show. You can see the good set of feet and leg that we see on her. She's angled rear leg set. And I'm going to keep her for my best mammary system here today. The wide mammary system that we saw, the good delineation of teats that we're seeing. The Alpine's a little younger than her, and I just think that the width and the mammary, the teat delineation and placement, just so ideal that it makes it that this Nigerian is the winner today. Thank you all, and I appreciate coming down here for it. It's just a pleasant place to work with this moderate climate and with such nice people. Thank you so much. And thank you for my help, my ring steward and my secretary here. They really helped keep things going. We would never be this far along if we didn't keep things going. Thank you so much.
attention in the dairy goat barn. This is Janie. I just wanted to tell everyone that it's official. This is my final year of helping in the dairy goat department. I would like to wish everybody a happy and wonderful year, and I've enjoyed meeting and working with every one of you. Everyone, take care. I love you all.